I'm on the not so sunny plains and grasslands of Africa today, and I'm loving it because I've got scattered clouds, some of my favorite conditions for photographing wildlife. And it's not just because it's cool and not so hot out here and the flies have gone that I like it. It's also because the animals do more in these conditions. They get out, they're not hiding under bushes, trying to avoid the flies and stay cool. The other reason I like it is the beautiful warm shadows that you get as the sunlight scatters across the clouds, and we get that change in light, that play of light across the scenes and the wildlife that we encounter. So it's great conditions today, and I'm hoping to use that to show you some of the techniques that I like to use when I come out to photograph wildlife. So I found my first subject today, and it was a Rufus Nape lark, or it is a Rufus Nape lark. And I love these animals. They're these little birds. They're to me, they're the sound of Africa, or the sound of this region of Africa in summertime. They make a beautiful melodic call, perched high on a bush or an exposed branch, and shout it out to the world. And while they're doing that, they flick their wings in a beautiful display. So you can drive around, you hear these Rufus Nape larks. It's always worth stopping and trying to find one to photograph because they're actually quite beautiful birds. Now this one is perfectly placed because not only does he have this soft, beautiful light falling on him, but he's got a dark tree line behind him, which I've managed to place him in front of and separate the bird from the background. Can you hear that? That sort of chirping noise? That is a Zitting cisticola. And he's flying around in circles about 15-20 meters off the ground. So you'd have to look up in the air to see him, trying to attract a mate. Another African sound of summer. I'm sitting and waiting, and there's nothing here. Why am I doing it? If you can see out there, you'll know why. I'm in a cool spot. I'm in a really nice environment to try and capture a photograph of something. And you don't get this pink grassland anywhere else in South Africa except this particular spot. And to a lot of people, it may seem wrong to have pink grassland. It's not grass, but it's a weed. It's an invasive species of plant called pom-pom weed, and some people would say it's ugly. But if you put an animal in that weed, in that sort of field of pink, it's unusual. It's really odd. So there's a herd of zebra over there, zebra again, and I'm going to sit here and wait and see what happens. I've got time. If they wander into this weed, into this field of weed and come closer to me, it could make for an awesome picture. So sitting and waiting at good locations for photographs might sound like a strange thing to do, because normally what you do is you find the animal and then you try and put that animal in nice light or a nice situation. But you can do it the other way around too. You can actually wait at a good location and wait for an animal to come into it and take a picture of that. As I said, wildlife photography is all about patience and waiting. It's about putting your animals, your species, your subjects in the right place, at the right time, in the right light. So I'm driving off now looking for something else, but it reminded me of another tip, and this is quite a good one. It's quite easy to follow. Basically, what you want to do on a game drive is plan your route so the sun stays on your left most of the time. It's not always easy to do, but if you can do it, what it means is you can photograph out of the right side of the car, the driver's side in my case, and the passenger can be in the back also photographing out of the window there. And what that means is that generally any animals that you encounter, or birds you encounter, scenes that you encounter, are going to be front lit or side lit by the low hanging sun, particularly in the evening and the morning, or pretty much all day in wintertime in South Africa because of the latitude that we're at. So if you can plan your route, don't just drive in and drive around and drive anywhere. You need to sit down, maybe look at a map and figure out at what time you're going to be at various places, and try and keep that sun on your left and drive down those roads to try and find the animals that you want to photograph. Pretty simple, but quite a good way to ensure that the lighting is good for most of the photographs that you get. One of the things we need to do as wildlife photographers is actually find the animals that we want to photograph. They're not like fashion models that show up hopefully on time. These are secretive creatures that want to go about their business without being seen, or worse, eaten. So finding them can be a bit of a problem. Now, there's two general schools of thought about this. One is to drive around relatively quickly and just stop at everything that everybody else sees. And that works really well for cat sightings, because typically there's a throughput of traffic at cat sightings. As someone leaves, someone else will arrive, and generally you'll see a cat like that. So you might have to drive quite large distances to see it. The other school of thought, which I like, is to drive much slower. I'm talking 10, 15 kilometers an hour. I mean, this is extreme slow driving. And the reason I like this, particularly in summer, is because it can introduce us to many more abundant types of wildlife. You'll drive around an area, promising area, really slowly, and you'll see little things like dwarf mongoose, honey badgers, maybe a caracal. You might actually see something like a leopard that's lying in a tree that you wouldn't otherwise see unless someone else had seen it crossing the road first. So these kind of encounters are typical of slow driving. When you drive around quickly, you tend to find animals that are large or that other people stop at. Things like elephants, giraffes, rhinos, buffalo. And you might think, well, that's all the good stuff. I contend that no, it isn't all the good stuff. The good stuff is hidden under a bush, and you drive past it, perhaps without seeing it. Something like a serval or a caracal, or even something as simple as a flay rat or Brandt's whistling rat. Some cool little creature that you might never otherwise have seen. I'm sitting here with a large white rhino. He's about 100, 200 meters away and ambling downhill. And I wanted to talk about positioning. Positioning is really important in wildlife photography, because all too often what we do is we see an animal, it's on the side of the road, it's just up ahead, we want to get really close to it, as close as possible so we can snap a picture. But what often happens when you do that is the animal gets startled, it gets frightened, it turns its back on you and starts walking further into the bush. So you end up with a lot of backside shots, which are not the greatest, let's face it. And there's a better way to do these things. Typically, we've got a decent focal length on our cameras, so we don't need to go right up close to that animal to get a decent picture of it. What we want is a photograph of the animal behaving in a natural way or doing something interesting that's not in tune with being frightened by your vehicle. So if you stop a good distance away, that's the first thing. Don't go too close. Stop a good distance away from the animal and try and start photographing from further back. Then what you can do is think about where that animal wants to go and what it wants to do, and try and position your vehicle where it's going, maybe at a resource like a water hole or something like that. Go and position yourself maybe at a road it's going to cross, and then wait. And eventually that animal will probably come out where you thought it was going to come out, and you can get an awesome picture of it doing something natural in its own space, in its own time, without being frightened of you.